Hey guys, what is up? Inksmith back again, and today I'm covering a topic that I just covered on my main channel, Unrested. And this is something that's going around in the media quite a bit right now, so I feel like it's fine to cover on here because usually what I do is downfalls, and oh my god, is this a pretty amazing downfall of a person who was working in the games industry here in Japan. Well, not living in Japan, but working as a voice actor for a company here in Japan, Platinum. And it was the voice of Bayonetta Part 1 and 2, Helena Taylor, who you see pictured here in the photo that I've included, and Bayonetta is the character. If you don't know much about this game series, there's not a lot to tell you. It's a great series that sold pretty decently. It has a part 1, part 2, and part 3 is where she decided she is no longer going to be the voice actor, and that is the big story behind all of this. What I would like to do today is kind of finish up this story because it really came to its conclusion today, and talk to you about, from my perspective, from my POV here in Japan, who has worked in localization, which is translation of games, and done some voice acting, but only really in Chugakusei, which is like junior high school voice acting for ESL, English as a Second Language books. How severely this lady messed up her career and even kind of affected, I'd say, a lot of her peers in the same way, and affected even people like me living in Japan who are a gaijin, a foreigner, an outsider, getting into this kind of business. It's pretty laughable how her story finally ends up in the final part of this. The conclusion confirms that all along she's been lying to everybody. So it starts out that she makes 4 separate videos talking about why she will no longer be the voice of this character you see pictured next to her, Bayonetta, in Bayonetta 3. And her first claim was pretty sufficient in the sense that she said she was only being offered $4,000 for a series that sold nearly $500 million in its last release, Bayonetta 2. Now, first of all, looking into this, it's nowhere close to $500 million. If you actually look up the sales numbers, maybe it could come to about 400 million if you included everything possible Bayonetta. Like, I'm talking merchandise, t-shirts, posters, sales in every single country across the world. But, you know, she's not the voice of a t-shirt. She's not the voice of like a mug with Bayonetta's face on it. She's the voice of just the game. If you only take the game sales, they don't come anywhere close to $500 million in dollars, okay? Now, she said $4,000 was way too little to be offered if she was going to work for a game release that was nearly $500 million in sales, and that all she wanted was a livable wage, god damn it. And she was not offered that, even after she went straight to the director, Hideki Kamiya, of this series. And she's right, $4,000 would be very low. But see, here's the thing. She was called out by Jason Schreiber, who, if you don't know, he's a games journalist. Bloomberg, he works for, did a release that showed, according to receipts and insider sources from Platinum Games, she was actually offered $15,000. And we're talking $15,000 for only about 14 hours of work. So making more than $1,000 an hour. Making more than $1,000 an hour. Guys, there's doctors who don't make $1,000 an hour. There's lawyers that don't make $1,000 an hour. In fact, that would be an incredibly high-end, high-scale level of work in any of those career paths. So to make $1,000 an hour, if that's not a livable wage, I don't know where you're living on a planet made of gold that is not Earth. I don't know what she expected for a livable wage. So apparently she went back to them and said, hell no, $15,000. I want a 6-figure number. Now she says people have been saying she asked for $250,000, and that's not true. No one comes anywhere around with this number of $250,000. I don't know where she dredged that up from. What she was supposedly saying to the company, according to the insider sources and Platinum themselves that's now come out, and Jason Schreiber, and the Bloomberg receipts that show what she asked for, it was about $100K. 100K for 15 hours of work. 100K. That would be lovely. I would love to make 100K for 15 hours of work. But that's pretty much the equivalent to playing the lottery. I don't know if there's any job in the world where you can make that much aside from being the CEO of Amazon. 15 hours of work means she recorded for 4-hour days and for 4 different sessions. Okay, so maybe that'll come out to exactly 16, give or take a couple minutes here and there, retakes, flubbed footage, bonus material, whatever. They were like, okay, $100,000 for 15 hours of work, that's a bit much. Nobody in the voice acting community gets paid that much. No, sorry, we'll look for another actor. But if you want to come back and do a cameo for $4,000, and that's like probably just an hour or 2 of work, which once again, that's amazing to make $4,000 in a couple hours. You can come back and do that. And she said, hell no. And then she released a video saying, I was only offered $4,000 to do the entire voice work for Bayonetta 3, and that's why I turned it down, and you guys should boycott this game. Well, she lied, because as of today, Helena Taylor, after being called out by nearly every channel covering this on the internet, said, well, what I actually said at the beginning was that I was offered an undisclosed amount, which was $10,000, and when I wasn't happy with that, I wrote to Hideki Kamiya, and he added an extra $5,000 onto that. So he was willing to pay an extra half of what she was already making, add that on, and bring it to $15,000. By the way, that's what Jason Shriver said it was, and she still wasn't happy with that. $15,000 for 4 sessions of 4 hours of voice work. Must be nice. I would love to make that kind of money in the voice working career path. That would be incredible. But that wasn't good enough for her. No. They decided to go with a totally different actor, the voice actor for the Mass Effect series. And she called her out too. Helena Taylor, the original voice actor for Bayonetta 3, said, I can't believe you're going to take this. Everybody should know I am always the voice of Bayonetta. I am Bayonetta. I made that character. No, you didn't. The animators, the scripters, the programmers, the graphic designers, the computer engineers, those are the people who made the character. You added 15 hours of work onto a character that they probably spent week after week putting in 42, sometimes 80 hours because there's not a lot of stoppage on going into overtime when it comes to Japan work. These people slaved away, and you want people to boycott the game so that they can't get their Christmas bonuses and summer bonuses, because yes, that's what happens in Japan. You get a Christmas bonus and you get a summer bonus, and you get those if you meet certain regulations set out by your company. So whatever the sales are is probably connected to their bonuses. And if that game is boycotted, they don't get those, because you didn't get the money you asked for. Cool. So everyone else should suffer because you're not happy with the price that you got on your voice work, which was unreasonably high to begin with. You already offered an unreasonably high wage, higher than anyone else in the VA community, and weren't happy with that. And now that you're not happy with not getting 6 figures, you tried to lie and say that you were only offered $4,000. Then you had to come back out after tons of people called you out, because originally when people called her out, she tried to say, I am so done with this project. I don't want to deal with Bayonetta stuff anymore and just resume my career in the theater. And I want to put the whole bloody franchise behind me. That's because she was called out. That's because people took her at her word and said, oh my God, $4,000. Yeah, that is really underpaid for, 4-hour sessions. That's not cool. They should pay you more. And then Platinum snapped back at her, which usually they don't do. And that's what really kind of caught my attention. Companies in Japan usually never lash back if they're in the wrong. So when Hideki Kamiya came out and said, that's not cool that you're lying. We tried to give you a cover story that you couldn't set up the time to record this. But if you're going to come out and lie, I'm going to just tell people like it is. That's not true. We offered you more. He didn't say anything more than that. He didn't break NDA. He didn't go off on, well, we offered you this and you asked for this absolutely insane amount and we were not going to do that. He just said, I just tried to tell people it was scheduling problems. But if you want to come out and try to slander my company, guess what? I'm going to call you out on how much you actually asked. And that's when it probably got reported to Jason Schreiber. When they say an inside source, that just means he probably gave them the okay to report to Jason Schreiber what she was actually offered. They told him, and then they stayed anonymous so that nothing could like make them lose face. Because Helena Taylor's already out here trying to make the company lose face by telling everybody to boycott this greedy company that made $500 million, which, mind you, I mean, this is split off how many different people working at the company. It's not a tiny little one-man operation that made billions, okay? We're talking $500 million if you put together every single game ever made from number 1 all the way to number 2 to all the different merchandise that went around those, all the different distribution of that, all the different, like, there's so many extra elements to that that she didn't bring receipts forward to show what they're actually talking about. And it wasn't even $500 million, it was 400 million, okay? And then she went out and lied about only getting offered 4,000. And then when she was called out on it, she tried to not respond. She tried to ignore it. She tried to be like, I want to put this whole thing behind me. And then finally, after, I guess, Charlie, all these other people finally put out videos being like, oh, so it turns out she's been lying from the beginning, and that's shitty. And yeah, it is. And you're a shitty person. And you make everybody look bad in the business, because now a lot of Japanese companies are going to be like, well, God, if we hire foreigners to do the voice acting, are they just going to like bomb us and flame us in the comment sections of Twitter or make videos about how they're not paid enough? That's not cool. I don't want to work with that. I guess we'll just go with someone else. And that's the problem. She's so selfish and so single-minded about her own greedy needs that she doesn't think about the consequences of a boycott that would take away the money that the people who worked way longer and way harder on the game than you. Because let me tell you, all those people at their office chairs here in Japan struggling to get this out on time for the company are banging away at their keyboards for probably 40 to 60 to 80 hours a week. While you do your little 15 hours in the nice little studio booth. Gotta rest my voice after 4 hours. Oh, and where's my 6-figure salary? And can someone go get my coffee latte? You know, like, it's such bullshit, the treatment that this woman thinks she deserves. And guess how many credits, how much of a pedigree she has in the voice acting community? Bayonetta, that's it. That's her claim to fame. That's it, just Bayonetta. She's not known as like some righteous voice actor who's done thousands of series and is known throughout the community and respected by all. And the thing is she was given the respect that she deserved by the company and even by Jennifer Hale, who did her voice acting part. They didn't snap back at her and say, oh, you know, you're a bitch for asking for this much, you greedy, selfish person. They just said, scheduling problems. And Jennifer Hale, classy, very classy, just said, look, I support all voice actors getting a better livable wage. And if she really feels like she wasn't offered that, I understand her frustration. I'm just taking the voice acting because I had time to fit it into my busy schedule. Because she, unlike Helena Taylor, has had many offers and probably will continue to have many offers. Jennifer Hale will, because she's easy to work with. And one thing that she does here in Japan is she has the wa of the workplace, something that's very respected here in Japan. The wa of the workplace is harmony in the workplace. You will not come into work here in Japan and start a loud, aggressive argument with another employee or your boss, because this does not work here in Japan. That will get you fired very quickly. You probably, when you think of Japanese society in general, I think you imagine a pretty calm, down-to-earth, reasonable, civilized society. And that truly is how it is, even more so at the workplace. Okay, you don't burst into loud screaming matches with your boss. This is unheard of. This will get you thrown out. Nothing can get done if someone gets too angry. If you get suddenly too angry, too ferociously over the top, people will shut down an argument in Japan. If you start screaming, they'll just be like, oh, okay, you're right. You know what? You're right. Because they're thinking, now you're just thinking with anger and rage, and you're not thinking rationally. And they're right. I mean, that's really how arguments work. When you get too angry, you say things you don't mean, and you get irrational. And that's what Helena Taylor did. She got too angry and too irrational. Yeah, she's not screaming into the camera, but she definitely let anger drive her to say she was only paid $4,000 and lie to make it look as bad as possible for the company that gave her a chance 3 times in a row and wanted her to come back. And even when she refused their offer, offered her a cameo for $4,000 to just do an hour or 2 of work. She still wasn't happy enough. She had to put them on blast because she wasn't getting a livable wage. What is a livable wage for you? $15,000 for 15 hours of work is not a livable wage. Where do you live? UK? I mean, I know money's bad there right now. I know the economy's bombing and your prime minister is a nut job. But, like, what what do you mean by a livable wage? What is a livable wage to you? She leaves that very vague on purpose. And she just says, well, I didn't ask for $250,000. Yeah, but that doesn't deny the fact that people think you asked for 6 figures. You can still do 6 figures in different numbers and digits, okay? If you're wondering why I'm sounding a little bit more passionate about this than I do with some of the other things I talk about, it's because this looks bad for us here in Japan. For me, as a gaijin, as a foreigner, as someone who gets work, has customers, has clients, it doesn't look good when someone from outside of their very indigenous community lashes out in a way like this. This is a very irrational thing to do. This is a woman who's my same age and is acting like a spoiled teenage brat. I didn't get my way, so I'm going to put you on blast on social media. And then she got called out. And now that she's completely been called out, she tried to update and be like, well, look, at the beginning I said, they offered me an undisclosed amount. She never said any of this stuff. I went back and watched the videos to make sure. I was like, did I miss this? Did I miss her saying that she was originally offered $15,000? No. You told us they offered you a flat fee of $4,000. When they called you out and said, no, that's not true, here's how much we actually offered you, Jason Shriver dug deep, got that information, and forced your hand. And now you're saying, well, I meant $15,000. Whatever you meant, whatever you implied, whatever you think you dictated, you did not get that information across in any way whatsoever. And that is lying by omission. That's what you did. That's a very childish thing to do. If your mom asks you if you studied and you put your textbooks on the ground and walk over and say, yeah, I've been over my books a couple times, that's still lying. You're just changing the words around. You're messing with the syntax to make it sound like you're, I'm still in the right here. I just, I wasn't trying to be greedy. I didn't ask for $250K. You notice she had to bump it up to $250,000 to make it sound more unreasonable. I never asked for that much. Yeah, but you asked for 6 figures, which is insane for 15 hours of work. No Hollywood actor makes 6 figures for 15 minutes or 15 hours, of work. What are you thinking? What are you on? So now she says, anyway, I just want to go back to my theater career. Well, I hope people in your theater career hear about this incident, because I can tell you what, here in Japan, you're blacklisted. All right? The news, the hubbub around Japan is no one will ever work with you again. Your voice acting career is dead. I imagine it's probably dead overseas too. I don't think you're going to be doing any voice acting in any kind of upcoming titles. And if you're sick of dealing with this industry, don't worry. This industry is sick of dealing with you. And I hope people that are your peers at the theater you work at also hear about this so they know who they're dealing with. I'm not saying you need to lose your job. I'm not saying you need to be fired, okay? I'm not a big fan of that, people losing their jobs. But I am saying I hope people know who they're working with. A greedy, selfish, self-centered bitch. That's the truth. You should be ashamed of yourself. Anyway, guys, sorry for the very heated video. I hope you enjoy a little bit more passion, though, and something that I'm talking about. That's the final conclusion to this whole thing. Helena Taylor, you are a big, fat liar. Check yourself. Until next time, I've been the Inksmith. Have a great rest of your day.